D&D 3rd edition and 3.5 players believe that this is peak D&D, and they may be right. 3rd edition and 3.5 players swear that their character creation system is superior to all other editions that came before or after, so I'm diving into exactly why this is. And in order to do that, we're going to look at the changes from AD&D 2nd edition to 3rd edition, the changes from 3rd to 3.5, the character creation in 3.5, and the options to go beyond the core rulebooks. But before we can go into the character creation, we need to understand why exactly this edition revolutionized the game completely. The company that started Dungeons & Dragons, TSR, was purchased by Wizards of the Coast in 1997. They immediately set about creating a brand new edition, and what they created became known as Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition. A large overhaul of the game came into fruition where the D20 was assumed for all decision-making roles, which accompanied a unified modifier system to simplify the game. The THACO system was replaced by Ascending AC, streamlining the actual math of calculating if a strike hits or not. Now, the bigger the number, the better. Non-weapon proficiencies turned into skills, and there were a lot of them. All saving throws were reduced to 3 categories: fortitude, think hardiness; reflex, think dodging; and will, think mental strength. Tactical combat made a big push for maps and miniatures to be used on a grid system instead of purely theater of the mind. Feats became a key component of building your character by adding customizable abilities. The thief class became the rogue, the monk returned, but this time as a core class, and the sorcerer class was created. And finally, the open game license was born, allowing third parties to create supplements to Dungeons & Dragons, and make them they did. But then how did we get from 3rd edition to 3.5? An updated rulebook was launched after rigorous real-time feedback from Dungeons & Dragons players. Minor class rules, spells, and feat changes followed, but the biggest change came with skills. The number of skills was reduced from 42 to 35 core skills. This meant that some skills were now covered by larger blanket titles that could do a few things, making it way easier to manage. And with all these changes going on in order to create the best character design process, this leads us to ask, how is it different to 5e? Stats remained largely unchanged, although the default way to roll stats became rolling 4d6 and dropping the lowest, which is still largely used today. Skills, however, worked in a very different way. Skill modifiers relied on the relevant stat modifier, but ranks, or bonus modifiers, could be purchased using skill points, very much like an RPG video game skill tree. At level 1, a character receives a number of skill points dependent on their class. For example, barbarians get 4 and clerics get 2. You then take this number, add your intelligence modifier, and then multiply this total by 4. So our barbarian gets their starting 4 plus their intelligence modifier of +1, multiplied by 4, giving them 20 skill points to spend wherever they want. Certain skills were easily accessible to particular classes. For these class skills, each rank or number modifier could be purchased for 1 skill point. Skills outside your class skills would cost 2 skill points per rank. Your maximum rank was also limited to your level +3. So for a level 1 character, your max rank in any given skill would be +4. Each time you gain a level above first, you get your class skill number plus your intelligence modifier number of skill points to assign where you want. Your skill modifier can be increased from there with miscellaneous bonuses from things like magic items. When you compare this to the 5e version of a level-dependent proficiency bonus and then skill proficiencies that are given to you by class, species, or sometimes background and feats, this creates a much more finely tuned version of your character. Being able to control exactly what bonuses go into any skill allows you to create the exact character that you had in mind in a really intuitive way. So we've seen how stats affect skills, but what about saving throws? As we mentioned before, moving from 2nd edition to 3rd, the number of saving throws reduced to 3 categories, and calculating your bonus is simple. Your class gives a base number for each of the 3, and then you add your constitution modifier to your fortitude, your dexterity modifier to reflex, and your wisdom modifier to will. Easy. This also made it super easy for your dungeon master to rule what kind of save you need to make. Does your body need to withstand something? Fortitude. Do you need to dodge something? Reflex. Or do you need to mentally push through something? Will. Downside to only having these 3 categories was that if you sucked at one of these, life was going to be pretty damn hard in game. 5e opened it back up to saving throws based on all the main stats, so sucking at 1 meant that you only sucked at 1 in 6 as opposed to 1 in 3. Okay, so we know what skills our character has, but what about some heroic abilities to really show off their flair? That, my friend, is where feats come in. Feats are just like in 5th edition in essence. They are abilities or bonuses that can specialize your character even further. further. These may make you more nimble, give you extra spells, or additional battle options like armor training or fighting styles, or allow you to create magical potions by yourself. However, in 3rd edition, you receive them way more often. Everyone gets a free feat at first level, and some characters may get extra ones based on species and class, such as humans or fighters. But that's not all. Every character receives a feat every 3rd level from 3 through 18. And in addition to those feats, you also gain a +1 ability score increase every 4th level. Whereas in 5th edition, you have to pick either 2 points of stat increases, a feat, or a half feat that also gives you a +1, and that's only on every 4th level. ¿Por qué no los dos? Oh, but I can hear you from here. But Jay, that's not enough specialization for my character concept. Then I suppose we should dive into multi-classing and prestige. Just like 5th edition, you can add multiple classes to your character with some added bonuses. When you add a 2nd class, you also gain their base saving throw and attack bonuses, on top of what you had before. As far as skill points, you gain the number of skill points that you would by taking a level in this new class, and can spend them without penalty only in the class skills for the class that you're taking. For example, if your rogue is taking a level in wizard, they will only gain 1 rank for every 1 skill point for the wizard class skills. You'll have to pay the extra point penalty outside of this, even if the skill is in the rogue skill class. Most of the time, 3rd edition players will also take multiple classes in order to achieve a prestige class. Prestige classes were born out of the specialist classes of AD&D, like the Bard, where you had to achieve a certain number of levels in a particular classes in order to achieve it. We did a whole video on it, I'm not explaining it again. Prestige classes for 3rd edition took this idea and ran with it. There were several prerequisites in order to hit a prestige class, such as minimum attack bonus, a certain number of ranks in a skill, alignment, particular feats, or even spell levels. But with this, you could achieve prestige classes like the Red Wizard, the Illithid Slayer, or the Dragon Disciple. Some of these eventually took on the form of subclasses by 5th edition, but there's something special about plotting out your path to achieving prestige classes and gaining access to their unique abilities. But surely that's it, I hear you ask. Well, nay, I say, for there is even more beyond the core books. Without going nuts with it, I'm going to cover 2 character options that we have yet to talk about, starting with monstrous characters. On Valentine's Day of 2003, Wizards of the Coast gifted us with Savage Species, a book entirely on how to play as monstrous species as player characters. This book gave guidance and player options to transcribe monster species from the monster manual into player characters and how the stats convert to a character sheet. It also includes monstrous feats, attack options, and spells. Insane. This eventually would become known as the sidekick options in 5th edition. And if that wasn't epic enough, then maybe we should look at something that 3rd edition was known for: epic level play. The aim for epic level play was to really become those godlike heroes and take on enemies far beyond what other heroes could hope to lay a scratch on, let alone defeat. Epic level characters and rules go beyond level 20 as a character as long as they have at least 10 levels in their classes. Beyond level 20, you gain epic bonuses to your abilities and saving throws, and now have access to a number of epic level feats. These feats included blinding speed, which allowed you to act like you had the haste spell cast on you for 5 rounds every day. Great smiting, which doubles your smite damage. Or lingering damage, which causes an opponent hit with sneak attack to take that sneak attack damage on their next turn as well. All in all, I think they may be onto something, and I believe the 3.5 has some of the best, if not very broken, character creation, and the most game-changing ideas, which opened up the game to a huge new audience. But to understand where this all came from, you should check out this video here on 2nd edition.